What was supposed to be a quick trip to the grocery store ended up being the last time Briana Brown saw her husband. A widow at age 28, Briana unexpectedly lost her college sweetheart and the father to their young daughter. On this episode of Girl We Need to Talk, Briana shares the life lessons her husband's death taught her and how she's been able to open up her heart again.
There's room in people's heart for more than one person, you know? Like the heart doesn't only hold space for one person.
My father died on June 20th, 2018. I was 37 years old, and suddenly everything I knew about myself was uprooted. I had so many questions, and there were so many layers to peel back. Who was my daddy? And who am I as a result? What was his legacy? And what will mine be? My mantra for 2019 was happy, healthy, whole. I was determined to face my grief and heal. And my girls were there with me every single step of the way. I found strength in my vulnerability, and we had open, honest, transparent conversations. And that's what we're gonna do here in this space. So grab your journal, light some candles, pour a glass of wine, and get cozy. Because girl, we need to talk. Welcome back to another episode of Girl We Need to Talk. I'm Charity Bailey. Briana, thanks so much for joining us.
Of course, thanks for having me.
So, folks might not know this, but you and I are really good friends. And we actually met the year that your late husband passed away and my dad died, like a few months apart. And then as fate would have it, we met at a pool party and the rest has been history. But if folks didn't know and you weren't so open on social media about losing Marcus, they wouldn't know. So tell us a little bit about him, what kind of person he was.
Oh, he was the life of the party. He was the life of every and any event. His presence just kind of filled the room without even being purposeful. That's just the type of person and the energy that he had. He was a helpful person. I remember at his funeral, people were getting up and speaking about him, and pretty much like 20 people said, at one point in time, I stayed with him. I lived with him. I lived on a couch. He gave me a room. And I'm like, he's just that person to always open up his space and everything to you or anyone else. And so he was just a big hearted person. He also had a big stature also. So not only was his presence, big and felt, but also his personality was also.
So what do you miss most about him?
Oh man, he was like my best friend. Yes, he was my husband, but he was my best friend. He's the person that I kind of grew up with in a sense, because we met, I was a sophomore in college. So, I was still, understanding who I was as a person, a woman. He was there for my 21st birthday, So he was kind of at that transitional phase for me, kind of growing from a girl to a woman. And so, I just miss our talks, our conversations, just somebody I can just be truly vulnerable with, who understood who I was and who I'm also becoming at the same time.
Yeah, well, you are growing tremendously. You've grown a business. You have a lot going on. But walk us through the night that he passed away.
Okay, so at that time, I was in cosmetology school. So actually, let me go back. It was a great day prior to that. I got my eyebrows microbladed. I got my nails done. It was...
Sis was ready.
It was a great day. Okay, let me tell you. Then I went to cosmetology school and I had a car and he had his motorcycle. So typically he would pick up my daughter from school. He would come to my school, leave his bike, get the car, go pick up my daughter and go home. And so we had a substitute at school. So I'm like, you know what? I'm just going to sneak on out and I'm going to go get her myself. So I decided to go get her myself. And then, we went to the house and we had the little SRP Empower box. And so it's kind of like a prepaid electric system. So you have to kind of put money on the card. So he made it home before us. And he said he was just going to go down the street to the grocery store to add some money on the electricity card. And we got home and it was dark because the power went out because we ran out of money on the card. And so he was just taking a very long time. And I'm like, he wouldn't make any extra errands knowing, we're sitting here in the dark. So what's going on? So I'm calling and he's not answering. So I'm like, man. So I told myself I'm just gonna drive down to the grocery store real quick, do a loop. I'm not gonna see his bike there. And by the time I get home, he's gonna be home. That's what I was telling myself. And I also told myself, don't yell at him. Don't be like, don't answer. Why are you not answering the phone? Don't do this. I'm like, just talk to him. Be like, hey, when you don't answer, I get worried. So just be mindful about communicating better. I was all, gonna be all adult about the conversation and everything. So my daughter was eating. So I'm like, hey, stay here. I'm gonna be back, in 2 minutes. Don't open the door. So I leave and I go around to the grocery store. I drive in the parking lot. I don't see him. And then I'm driving out the parking lot and I look to my right and I just see like police lights and stuff. And I'm like, well, that's past the grocery store. There's no reason why he should be past the grocery store. Our house is the other way. But I'm like, I got to go see. Like, I won't feel at peace or at ease until I go check it out. So then I pull up and then I see his bike in the middle of the road. And so I pull into like the turning lane and I just park my car. I get out and I'm like, that's my husband's bike. That's my husband's bike. And the police officer comes to me and I'm just shaking, and they ask me, what's his name? I tell them, they're like, yes, that's your husband. He's been in an accident. He's already got transported to the hospital. They're like, do you want us to give you a ride? And I'm like, no, I'll drive myself. They're like, no, we're going to give you a ride. We'll send an officer to bring your car. So he took me to the hospital. As soon as I got there, they took me into a little private room. Private rooms are bad, I realized. It's not a good sign. So they took me in a private room. The officer sat with me. They also ended up bringing the social worker in to sit with me. And so they asked, if I had any family coming or anything like that.
While Briana waited for family to arrive at the hospital, doctors informed her that her husband Marcus had passed away. Chandler police say Marcus was riding his motorcycle east on Ray Road when a small SUV turned left in front of him. According to witnesses, Marcus hit the side of the SUV and flew off his bike. He was wearing a helmet at the time of the crash. Marcus died at just 31 years old on March 21st, 2018. So just like that, your entire world is turned upside down.
Yep.
What was that like?
It was, I don't even know. I feel like everything just happened fast and slow at the same time, which is really an interesting concept.
It's like the Matrix almost.
Yeah. It's like everything's moving so fast, but you're literally seeing it move slow. And so, at 28, I'm a widow now, someone that you plan to spend your life with. You're not even 30 and you already lost your spouse. Most of my friends haven't even married yet, and I've already been married and now a widow. So, I had to plan his funeral. Like, what do I know about planning a funeral? Like, the last funeral I went to was like my grandparents when I was, younger. Like, I had to pick out songs. I had to figure out what he was going to wear, what he was going to get cremated in, things like that. So it was a lot. It was a lot.
Well, then you add to that, you have to go home and look your daughter in the face and tell her that daddy's not coming home anymore.
Yes. So
what was that conversation like?
So when I got to the accident and the officer was taking me to the hospital, I called my best friend and I had him go pick up my daughter from the house. And so we got back home around 11 p.m. and my mom told me to tell her in the morning. And I'm like, no, I'm gonna tell her tonight because she's gonna ask where he is. And I don't want to lie to her and then have to, retract the lie the next day. I just told her like, hey, when I went to go look for daddy, and she was like, yeah. I'm like, well, daddy got into a motorcycle and he's now in heaven. And then she started crying. And then I asked her, do you know what that means? And then she was like, yes, my daddy is dead. That was her exact words at 5 years old.
Yeah.
And it was actually really interesting. Oh, like a week before that happened, we were driving to school. I was taking her to school. And then she was just like asking, oh, what happens when you die? She was asking me that. And I'm like, oh, well, when you die, you go to heaven, your spirit goes to heaven. And I was just making it seem like a grandiose time. And I was like, oh, I made it seem maybe like too much of a happy place. But then that made the conversation a week later easier a little bit because we
Mm-hmm.
kind of prior had that brief conversation about it. So I think that's why she really kind of understood what I was telling her.
Yeah. She immediately made the association when you said that he was in heaven, that he was
Mm-hmm.
dead. Yeah.
Correct.
Now, you're very open about the fact that you didn't want him to have this motorcycle and that you had him get life insurance just in case. Do you resent him at all for not being here and like actually leaving on the motorcycle?
I used to. For a little bit, I did. I don't anymore because I just think I'm a very practical person, and I just feel like that's kind of the circle of life. We assume you're supposed to, get old to 100 and die in your sleep. But unfortunately, that's not the reality of life,
Mm-hmm.
unfortunately. And so I don't know. I just feel if it wasn't the motorcycle, if it was his time to go, it would have been a different vessel that, caused this to happen.
Mm-hmm.
Unfortunately, it had to be that stupid motorcycle. But
Right.
yeah, I did not want him to get it. And he got it in October and he passed in March. So he didn't have it very long at all.
Wow. So when you were resenting him, what was that like? What were those feelings like?
Well, I was kind of resenting him, but I kind of blame myself also because I could have did it the whole motorcycle thing. Like if I was adamant enough, I could have just been like, no, it's not happening. I'm sorry. You're not getting it. But also, I'm not trying to be your mom. I want to be your partner.
Mm-hmm.
I want to be your support person also. So I'm like, you know what? I'm going to let him have this. But he also needs to take, the proper steps also. Um, and then I also did, resent him a little bit and was a little mad at him because he knew I didn't want him to get that motorcycle, but he made that decision and it was the thing that cost him his life.
So what was it like when you came home to the realization that he wasn't coming back? Like your bed, the spaces
Right.
that y'all shared.
At first, not that it wasn't hard at first. I just had so much support. So it was so many people around.
Mm-hmm.
Like at the hospital, it was probably like 50 to 100 people that showed up that night. Like when they found out, like the news just kind of spread and his fraternity brothers, my sorority sister, friends, family, it
Yeah.
was just so many people. And then the next day, it was just so many people. So for a long time, I wasn't even by myself. And my cousin, she flew in from Detroit and she probably stayed with me like a month, if not longer. So it was a long time before I was by myself, which I think was very helpful because by the time I think I was mentally ready to be by myself is when kind of everybody kind of just, kind of let me be in that space. But it was definitely, definitely hard to, go to sleep and wake up without that person knowing, it's not like they're just on vacation or on a trip or anything like that. It's like permanent.
So the grieving process, what was that? What has that been like for you? How have you been navigating that over the last few years?
I think my main thing has just been keeping myself busy. That's
Uh,
how I handled my grief.
so do you
You know,
think that's good, bad? Are you indifferent about it?
um, I think it's twofold. I think it's good because you get a lot done. I've accomplished a lot.
Listen,
And
I will say this: you have gotten a lot done, sis. I told y'all we met in 2018,
yeah,
and in the time that I've met you, I think you've done more in 2 years than most people do in 10.
right. Yeah, so it's definitely a good thing because it definitely pushed me, professionally and personally in a lot of ways. But also at times I look back and be like, I haven't really dealt with it fully. And I don't know if that's something you ever really deal with fully. I don't know what that really looks like. And I think that's the very interesting thing with grief. It's no blueprint with it. There's no
Mm-hmm.
right or wrong way. So you just try to figure it out as you go. And so I think that's why I'm so open with my story, because I think it's helpful for other people who go through similar things to know that Grief is not textbook. I don't care what they tell you about it being linear and these phases and these steps. Nah, that's not, that's not reality. That's not life. And I want people to understand it's okay that it's a little up and down and a little spirally, like, and that's fine. That's what it is. But yeah, I just kept myself busy. Really, I keep telling myself I need to go see a therapist.
Well, you're also a psych major, so
Yeah.
so you know what it is.
You're right. I definitely do have my degree in psychology. So I do support mental health. I have not really seen a therapist about it. And I don't know why not. I don't know. Like, I just feel like, what are you going to tell me that I don't know? I don't know why I feel that way, even though I'm sure they can really tell me something I don't know. But I did put my daughter in therapy, because I felt like that was good for her to kind of have someone to talk to about things, her feelings and things like that.
So what prompted you to put your daughter in therapy?
I feel like she started having some behavioral challenges that I really didn't know how to address. So I'm like, well, let's, talk to a professional to kind of see, how they can help, because she's 8 now. So that was, 3 years ago. And I want her to have a safe space for her to talk to someone. Maybe she's not comfortable with talking to me about her dad because I am dating again. Maybe she thinks I will feel some type of way or it's not appropriate. I'm not sure. So I've been wanting to put her in it, and then I had a very good recommendation of who can take my insurance, and I did want someone who looked like us also. That was really important for me. So she's been in therapy for a few months now.
So you are an entrepreneur. After your husband passed away, you started your businesses, you purchased a home, you have all of these things going for yourself. Like I said, you kicked COVID's behind. Yeah, you did. You can own that. So, and again, at what, 30, 31?
Yeah.
So, what is your love life like? Have you started dating again? Do you feel like it's too soon? Have people been saying that it's too soon? That's the whole thing, I'm sure.
Of course. So it's interesting because when I started dating, when I lost my husband, family and friends, they would be like, "Oh, you're young. We know you're gonna start dating again. We want you to start dating again and get out there." And but then when it happens and it's all like,
yeah,
like, but you just
you're
told
like,
me
mind your business.
that part. So yes, I'm dating currently, and it's going great. But yeah, I'm young. I'm definitely gonna eventually, date and hopefully remarry and things like that. I don't know, the time frame on when that's okay or when that's not okay. I don't think it really is an okay or not okay type of thing. I think as long as I feel that I'm mentally ready to accept someone into my heart, then that's what matters to me, not what other people's perception is. Some people may never marry again, even if they lost their spouse this young, but some people may be married within the next year. It's all about you, your heart, and your partner that you found.
Yeah. Did you go through a phase where you were like, I'm not going to do this again? Or was it more like, I'm just going to date everybody? Forget it.
I did have a slight hot girl summer.
I think it was that summer we met. And that's okay too. Listen, we were talking about the fact that everybody grieves different. And
Right.
I've been very open. That's why I got Lacey, because I was like, I'm going to be over here with somebody's son and it's just not going to be good.
Yes. So I definitely did. Summer 2018 was a very good summer, but it was definitely me trying to, not deal with my realities of life.
You are very open and very direct. So, what does it look like when you're dating someone seriously, especially when Marcus is such a big part of your life? Y'all have a daughter, his pictures are up around the home. How do you introduce that to a new person and have them still feel secure in the relationship?
So I'm currently dating boyfriend number 2 since my husband.
I can't stand you. All I can think of is a boyfriend number 2.
And so I think boyfriend number 1, great guy, nothing bad to say. But it's interesting because so he knew him.
Mm.
So I don't know if that's what made it more difficult and that relationship with him kind of not feeling that he's competing with someone who isn't here, and feeling, comfortable in the relationship because he knew who he was. I'm not sure if that's what it is, or is it a personal thing with that person that they were uncomfortable with it. But my current boyfriend, he's never met the guy at all, but he's not threatened or intimidated by his presence, or anything, by the photos or anything like that. So I'm not sure if it's them individually, their personalities made that difference, or is it because the relationship that they have or lack thereof with Marcus? I'm not really sure. But my current relationship, it's a lot different type of scenario when it comes to, my late husband.
Well, also, I think it's important for people to know that if you're going to date someone who has a child and that other parent has passed away, you can't just omit that person from their life.
Correct.
That's
And
big.
yeah, it is. And also, the guy I'm dating now, he has a daughter. So that may make a difference also, because he understands that father-daughter bond, that father-daughter relationship. So that can also play a role. And I feel like men, women, even if you're dating, somebody like a man who lost his wife, or something like that, I think you have to let that person go through those emotions and understand that there's room in people's heart for more than one person,
Mm.
like the heart doesn't only hold space for one person.
And it's
It holds.
hard for some people to understand that concept.
Yeah, no, I do agree. But also, I think that's when people have to have those conversations and say, hey, that makes me a little uncomfortable that you still are going through these emotions about your husband, but I understand, or you know what I mean? Whatever it is, just be open and honest. Don't say, hey, I get it when you don't get it. And then your actions and your words aren't matching.
Did you ever feel guilty for dating?
I didn't actually. I didn't, because I think he would have wanted me to kind of go on and be happy and find somebody who would treat me and Nalia right. So I didn't ever feel guilty. Mm-mm.
So you mentioned the community that you guys have and how they
Mm-hmm.
showed up for you, and they continue to show up for you, and you're very open on social media about your grieving process and the milestones. So how do
Mm-hmm.
you currently celebrate or honor your anniversaries, his birthdays, and kind of incorporate your daughter into that as well?
Yeah, so every year we have a birthday dinner on his birthday, because we used to always have birthday dinners. So, we still do. I invite, a couple of his frat brothers show up. It's me and my daughter, my best friend. We all show up this year. My boyfriend did join us for dinner.
Nice.
I know, which I appreciated. I'm like, I hope you're not uncomfortable, but he joined us, and that
Mm-hmm.
was nice. So yeah, we do have a birthday dinner every year, anniversaries and things like that. I typically post, a little post on Instagram and kind of leave it at that. But it's really ironic because I think it was the day before his birthday or the day before our anniversary. That night, I just felt really sad and I didn't know why. And then the next morning, I realized the date and I'm like, dang, like even like
Mm-hmm.
unconsciously, my body is like aware,
Mm-hmm.
it's really weird.
It's a thing. It is a thing. It, a lot of people say
Yeah.
that it happens to them, and it's just a really interesting
Mm-hmm.
space that we hold for our loved ones.
Correct.
Even if you don't know what today is, your body knows what today
Yeah,
is. Yeah.
exactly. Yeah.
And yeah. So as we wrap up, you have a tattoo, and we have a picture of it. But explain that tattoo for us.
So it says 1, 2, 3 with a heart and 3, 2, 1. So His birthday was January 23rd, 123, and his death date was March 21st, 321.
Yeah.
Very ironic.
And on that day, your life changed drastically.
Mm-hmm.
But you, my friend, have done a tremendous job of, I won't even say holding it together, because I think I don't know. I honestly, you blow my mind. I watch you in the salon, and I watch you with your daughter and out and about in the community. And you've taken something that would have wiped most people out, and you honestly, you found victory in what would have been defeat for a lot of people. And so I guess the question is, for other people, how do you do it? How do you continue to move forward, and how can they take a page out of your book?
One thing I had to realize is that his life ended and mine didn't. And it's hard to say that out loud because it sounds very selfish a little bit, but it's just the reality of what it is. And just because, his life ended, my life didn't stop, and it can't stop. And I think maybe having my daughter helped, because I couldn't just sit in the room and, be depressed. Like, she had needs and things had to get done. I still had bills to pay. And, I was an entrepreneur. So if I didn't go to work, I didn't get a paycheck.
Mm-hmm.
Unfortunately, I don't get paid time off and things like that. So, life had to continue, business had to still, continue as is, and I think that's what people have to realize. And not saying that you can't be sad, not saying that you can't have dark days, but things still have to move forward. Because if I didn't do any of these things, I would have looked back today and been like, dang, I'm still the same person that I was in 2018 here in 2021, and I couldn't have that. And so my support system they was the shit. I ain't even gonna lie. I'm sorry. I don't even know if I can say that, but
you can't listen. This is a space much like my living room that we can't. Yeah.
But my support system, are awesome. And even people who necessarily may not have knew me, prior to Marcus passing away, like yourself, you're still a part of my support system, and people like you are the reason why I can continue, because I think it's very therapeutic having these conversations. And no, I may not sit down with a therapist, but I think having these conversations with you in this type of space, or with my friend over happy hour, you're still getting those thoughts, feelings, and emotions out, which is good. Mm-hmm. Because if you don't, those things just kind of eat you up. And that's kind of where the trouble starts to happen.
There's so much to talk about, and it's heavy and it's hard, but there's also laughter and love that it's all laced with. And like you mentioned, community. You've been such a big part of my community as well. And so we just kind of lean in on each other, and we laugh and we cry and we talk crazy and cuss a little bit and drink a whole lot. But at the end of the day, like you said, life is for the living, and we're here living. And so the best way I found to honor my dad is to live. And I think the best way that you are able to honor Marcus is to live and to provide a great life for Nalia as well. And yeah, I mean, from the moment I met you, you've been living, sis.
My fur coat.
With your fur coat at brunch. Child, you bring Bree to brunch and she gonna have a fur coat. Oh my goodness, I just love you. Yes. Where is your glass? We need to toast.
Well, I gotta fill it up real fast.
Oh, okay.
The only thing I had was some Moscato, so we're gonna go ahead and fill that up. Okay.
I cannot. Well, I got my tea like I always do. And I just love you, Briana.
It's Sunday.
I can't. I cannot. Cheers to being happy, healthy, and whole, and to whatever's in her glass over there. I'll have two of those. Cheers.
Cheers.
On the next Girl We Need to Talk.
It wasn't that it was my husband's fault, but it was when you are in a situation of desperation, you are looking for someone to blame. So I looked to him to blame him for everything, because I was like, you were the one who wanted us to take this risk. You were the one who wanted us to do all these things. I never wanted our friends to be involved in this. And so a lot of my anger, of course, was directed at him, because I couldn't direct that anger at anybody else, right?
Thank you for watching Girl We Need to Talk. You can find me across all social media platforms at Miss Charity Bailey. Make sure you like and subscribe.